When the clock strikes midnight, the murmurs begin. But this isn't just another spooky story time. It's a bone-chilling blend of shadowy fiction, disturbing true crime, eerie legends, and interviews that just might haunt you. From cursed hallways to the darkest corners of the human psyche, nothing is off the table. And if our voices have found you, it may already be too late. New episodes drop each week. Follow Murmurs at midnight and invite the darkness in.
Welcome to Murmurs at Midnight, where the shadows of the Ozark Mountains whisper tales too dark for daylight. Tonight, we venture to Black Mountain, a place where the ridge holds secrets tighter than a lockbox, and the truth hums like gears you can't unhear. Before we dive into Gatekeepers at Black Mountain, a psychological thriller woven from the Ozark's own haunted threads, make sure to follow us on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, X, TikTok, and Apple Podcasts to stay in the know. And if you're craving more, subscribe to our spooky tier on Apple Podcasts. You'll unlock exclusive true crime tales that never see the firelight, plus members-only content that'll keep you up long past midnight. Now, settle in and let's step into the dark. Folks say the ridge keeps secrets like a lockbox, quiet and ordinary, until you put your ear right up against it and hear the gears turning. And once you hear that, you can't unhear a thing. Up here, just off an old logging road that no map bothers to label, there stands a derelict Sunday school chapel with one window busted and the other half frosted by mineral dust. It's a place teenagers dare each other to visit, a place where grown men park and think through questions they don't talk about at home. On a Tuesday, when the moon lay thin like a blade's edge, a preacher named Ellis Varn set a mason jar on the chapel's pulpit and waited for a woman to arrive. He used to preach about faith that sealed the contract of wedding vows, but over time, his homilies moved toward bargains people struck long before vows were ever discussed. Bargains that came down to what was guarded and what was given, and who held the key, and who got what in the breakup of the relationship. Her name was June Mallory, 27, red hair braided tightly down her back. She held a look about her that told you she had practiced both leaving and staying, giving and taking, and still hadn't decided which one fit her best. She climbed the chapel steps and stared through him like folks stare through stained glass to see the sky beyond.
You said you had proof.
No, I said pattern. Proof belongs in hospitals and courtrooms. Patterns belong to people like me. Take a look at this.
Inside that jar lay a wedding band, gold warmed by skin long gone from it. The ring belonged to a man named Wade Mallory, a farrier out of Harrison, missing since spring storms toppled sycamores across the low road. Everyone else said that water took him, referring to the Buffalo National River, but Reverend Ellis said otherwise.
Men choose the woman they want for a marriage covenant. Women choose the men they sleep with. That's the old arithmetic. Your husband decided on you for that marriage covenant, and somebody didn't like it. Somebody took your husband, ma'am, not the river.
What are you not telling me? Say it out loud.
There is a man collecting brides that he never marries. He takes the husbands first, then later the wives. I think the FBI would refer to his behavior as serial.
Ellis had a following online. Not huge, not small, the kind of audience that quotes you in barbershops and anonymous comment threads. He spoke plainly about courtship and choice. claimed that men's decisions turn into walls and roofs, while women's decisions turn into doors and keys. A key that opens every lock is a master key, he would say, but a lock that opens for any key is a busted lock. Folks argued with him, and he kept speaking because arguing fed the fire and improved his position in the algorithm. 2 counties east, Deputy Mara Gentry pinched the bridge of her nose in a fluorescent bullpen and stared at 3 files that didn't add up. Lori Whitten, Allison Kerr, and a prom queen long-turned bartender named Sierra James. Different towns, same kind of fiancé. Men who wanted vows like a solid house wants a foundation. Different women, same kind of fear. A whisper that grew teeth. Each woman had made a choice that felt like a yes, then pulled back and called it safety. Each man had waited and shaped his life for a future that felt promised. Then someone nudged the board and everything shook out of place.
Patterns are only beautiful when they're quilts. When they're people, they're trouble.
Mara drove out to Black Mountain when she should have been sleeping, drawn by rumor like a moth that knows the porch light is a trap and lands anyway. She found Ellis Varn on the chapel steps, the jar empty now, June gone, the world holding its breath like it does right before a thunderhead opens.
If you're counseling women, register as a counselor. If you're hosting midnight sermons, get a permit.
I'm not counseling, I'm mapping.
People aren't roads.
No, ma'am, they're topography, and I can read a contour when I see one.
I've got missing men who wanted to be husbands and jittery women who never made it to the altar. The internet thinks you invented some doctrine to explain it.
I didn't invent anything. I noticed what old people always knew and academics gave long names to. There's an economy to desire and a treasury to commitment, and not everyone pays the same currency.
You talk like a man selling a seminar.
I talk like a man who has buried boys that waited for vows, that didn't see danger coming from the woman they trusted.
And what direction was that?
The place where choice sits pretty and calls itself harmless.
Mara followed a rumor trail as thin as smoke back to a place called Black Apple Overlook, where the ridge opens onto a drop blue with distance. She didn't find June there, but she found 2 things: a bridal catalog soaked with creek water and a set of tire tracks that stopped short, like someone lifted the vehicle and set it down somewhere else.
2 distinct tread patterns, one heavy, one light. Both enter, but only one leaves. There is no turn radii. It looks as though a car was swapped, or one vehicle rolled onto a trailer and someone towed it out. But who moves a car on a weeknight and doesn't want anyone to hear it? Someone who planned to make it disappear.
The man who planned it called himself Ridge Tomlin, 41, a welder who traveled from job to job on river bridges, a listener more than a talker, the kind of man who could stand silent at the end of a bar long enough that people poured out their lives just to fill the air. He had a rule he'd learned from men's talk forums and old men on feed store benches alike. Treat a woman like a princess, and she will treat you like a peasant. Ridge collected almost wives and stored them like keepsakes, which he never dusted. Then he would set them free once they could no longer hold his interest. But the problem was, the last one he set free had turned up under limestone slabs near an illegal dump. The coroner wrote undetermined under the cause of death, which is a tidy way of saying that she met an untidy end. The county forgot the case like people forget a song they don't want to hum. Ridge waited until forgetting felt like mercy. Then he started again. June Mallory didn't chase men, but when she first met Wade, she was all about him. A successful business owner and tradesman with a stellar reputation in the community, Wade owned a large ranch in the country where he polished his craft. June could imagine herself horseback riding through the lush green fields and having afternoon lemonade with the girls around the in-ground swimming pool. She just knew she could convince Wade that they needed. June had a temper she used like a knife on ropes that tried to hold her. She did not like other people's boundaries, healthy or not, and she did not like to hear the word no. Folks said she married Wade because Wade could fix anything that cracked, but those tantrums must have been exhausting. Folks also said she tested Wade in ways of leaving, just to see if he was truly the one who could meet her needs and keep her secure, or if she had to find a better option. Wade had seemingly always passed her tests without even knowing she was giving them. Then he vanished without a trace. Not a word, no note, just gone. The police suspected he got tired of her and just left. He knew that she would take everything in a divorce anyway, so he left her with it, planning to rebuild his life elsewhere. Then she got a message from an unknown number that said, "Some men deserve wedding vows, and some deserve river currents," with a map pin to the chapel. Ridge watched from the tree line as June and Ellis argued under the steeple stub. He wanted to time the moment perfectly when grief turned into hunger for an answer, because that is the moment when you can lead a person anywhere with a simple promise of truth. He slipped away before Mara had arrived and drove his flatbed along a deer track. He picked up a car that would go missing in 3 hours and left in its place something polished enough to pass a glance test. By morning, June would be asking herself whether she had parked differently than she thought she remembered. By evening, she would have convinced herself that her own memory had betrayed her. That was Ridge's favorite part, gaslighting, substituting a person's confidence with his carefully placed doubt. Mara Gentry wasn't a philosopher. She was a list maker. She made 3 lists on her legal pad. Men who had bought engagement rings and intending to commit to marriage, women who had said yes to the marriage proposals but then stepped back from that decision, and the places where the proposals took place. She drove to an overlook where boys carved initials in cedar and girls pretended not to like it. She spoke to bartenders who knew which couples hugged like teammates and which ones simply posed like advertisers. She had discovered a pattern herself. All 3 of the missing men's vehicles disappear from the last place they were known to be. She suspected someone was towing those vehicles away. It did not take her long to identify everyone with trucks large enough for the job. She narrowed it down to just a handful. She had printed Ridge Tomlin's work history and compared it to cell tower pings that the county IT kid scraped from thin air with a grin and a lecture about privacy and subpoenas.
3 brides-to-be ditched their weddings within a month of Ridge taking a job within 20 miles. 2 of their former boyfriends went missing within 8 weeks of those cancellations. That isn't random. That's a hand on the scale.
Ellis Varn, meanwhile, took to his live stream with a face lit by a desk lamp and a voice that fell like gravel into a tin bucket. He told his listeners that covenant is the only fence line that keeps wolves out, and that people who toy with gates attract wolves without meaning to. He said there is a man hunting men who choose steadfastness, punishing them for placing value where he places sport. He didn't name Ridge. He didn't have to. June texted Ellis one word: where. He sent a pin deeper up the ridge where a rusted cattle guard bars a road that no one claims. They met there, Ellis and June, just as a storm rolled in from the west, the air fat with that first rain smell that makes earth feel clean even when nothing else is.
Say it straight.
Your husband took pride in his pick of you. You took pride in being worth the pick. There's a man who ruins that exact pride because he can't stand walls he didn't design. I think he took Wade. I think he'll come for you, not to keep you, but to grade your choices like a school teacher nobody asked for.
Let him grade me. Heck, I'll sharpen the pencil.
They didn't see Ridge at the edge of the scrub oak, rain dotting his jacket, eyes level and empty, like a spirit that learned to mimic a man. Mara arrived last, late enough that the road had turned to soup. She hiked the last quarter mile with a mag light and a curse for every step. She found a cut chain looped back to look unbroken. She also found shoe prints that doubled back on themselves, like the owner tried to be sneaky. She found the place where a flatbed had paused and then vanished into trees so tight the mirror should have snapped off, yet somehow didn't.
He rehearsed this.
She called for backup, which she really didn't have, but started moving forward anyway. Sometimes you don't wait for the cavalry. You aim for where the troublemaker's logic would take him and get there first, by thinking dumber and meaner than he thinks you can. Ridge Tomlin believed most women in Western cultures suffered delusions, thinking more highly of themselves than they should. As a result, they all felt they deserved rich, handsome men, at least 6 feet tall, with a six-pack and making over 6 figures per year. He believed that a woman's value was based upon her youth and beauty. When she is young, she should try to lock down the most valuable man as a husband that she could get. However, with the rise of social media, women were getting much more attention from complete strangers today than ever before in human history. Ridge felt that this caused women to doubt their choices in relationships, which caused them to cheat or simply end the relationship for greener pastures with the next guy who came along. Ridge had listened to enough red pill gurus to believe that men love idealistically, while women love opportunistically. That men were the true hopeless romantics, but current family court laws had made divorce and child support the highest paying career choice women could have. Ridge believed women always sought out their best opportunities to find mates. He made a sport out of proving hypergamy into 21st century creates slutty behavior by identifying engaged women and then seducing them. Or he would simply take the groom-to-be and then swoop in and seduce the jilted lover. Ridge believed that men who chose marriage were simps, a term used to describe guys who would do anything to please a woman. He understood that these men were simply stupid. He also believed that men have not kept up with the changes in the social contracts and suffered greatly for it. "She's not yours, it's just your turn," was a common saying in his online forums. He didn't believe women could choose covenant because he'd built his life around making sure they didn't get the chance to decide it. June Mallory believed in clarity. She also believed in paying back one took. She walked into the clearing Ridge had prepared, a place where he liked to make speeches, and she didn't flinch when he stepped out with a calm face and a line he'd practiced in mirrors.
You're here because you traded curiosity for comfort and found out comfort can only be rented. I'm the man who explains that rent.
You're the man who wants to be a landlord and thinks knocking down tenants makes you an owner.
Men decide the structure. Women decide the entryway. Your man chose a cathedral for you. I dislike cathedrals.
I dislike men who mistake demolition for design.
Floodlights showed a row of objects Ridge had kept. Programs from canceled weddings, dried bouquets, cufflinks taken from men who no longer needed cufflinks. At the far end, a photograph under glass. Wade Mallory at a county fair, hand on a colt's neck, smile set like a man who knows exactly what kind of life he was building. June swallowed hard and did not look away.
Hands where I can see them, Ridge.
I wondered when the law would catch up with the culture.
The law doesn't chase the culture. The law chases men who hurt people.
Men? Hurt? You'll forgive me if I laugh.
Laugh later.
Ridge believed the right words could spin a person like a top. Mara believed the right pressure could stop that spinning cold. June believed that grief should not be polite to anyone, even slightly close. The three of them stood there under floodlight glare and rain so strong it made halos in the beam, and the ridge held its lockbox tight.
June, you chose bodies. What is your body count anyway? You went to college, right? You must have done a lot of experimenting with other boys, and maybe even some girls. Wade chose a covenant, and...
Chose both. You don't get to narrate me.
June reached into her jacket pocket and took out Wade's farrier rasp, the steel pitted and oiled by work, not by display. She didn't lift it high, and she didn't lunge. She just held it like a ledger and spoke like a clerk counting a till.
Tell me where you left him, Ridge. Tell me, and I'll tell you why you never kept a thing worth keeping.
You can't change the mathematics.
You never learned it. Men choose marriage when they're ready to build. Women choose marriage when they're ready to live in what's built. Bodies are part of that. So are vows. You reduced a house to a door and called yourself an engineer.
Hands. Now.
They found Wade where water had tried to erase a careful crime, but failed miserably. They found other marks that turned undetermined into definitive criminal charges people could grasp with both hands. Ridge Tomlin didn't fight much. Men like him like control more than they like struggle, and the instant both slip in their grasps, their muscles give up before their mouths do. Ellis Varn closed his laptop for a week and preached in person to a half-full room of folks that wanted something more than rules, something closer to wisdom. He told them that choice in a lover without a covenant is as fleeting and uncertain as a balloon tossed by the breeze. He told them that a covenant without a choice is prison, and that's why the old folks sang about finding steadiness in the hand, not just butterflies in the stomach. June Mallory kept the rasp on her mantle and the ring in the jar on a shelf where sunlight goes late in the day. She wore no veil and made no speech when she went to the overlook and set her piece into the wind. She knew that the Ridge knows ceremony better than most people do, and some vows are only meant for echoes. There's a price to every door, and a cost to every house, and a weight to every word we use when we divide the world into the kept and the given, the picked and the promised. Up here, the Ridge still turns those gears you can hear if you get close enough. And if you're wise, you step back once you hear them, because not every pattern needs your finger to trace it. Not every lock wants your key. That's the end of Gatekeepers at Black Mountain, but the Ozarks never stop murmuring their truths. If this story's echoes are still ringing in your ears, keep up with Murmurs at Midnight by following us on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, X, TikTok, and Apple Podcasts. Don't miss out on our spooky tier on Apple Podcasts. It's your key to exclusive true crime tales too raw for our Fire tier listeners, plus members-only goodies that'll pull you deeper into the shadows. Until next time, tread lightly on those ridges, because not every lock wants your key. Good night.